that was honestly a live look at me eating it my first time on the slopes. I'm still feeling the pain, actually. Tailbone. It hurt.
This is Sportscentre.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto, and the countdown is on, as we're just 16 days away from the start of the NHL playoffs. So let's dive right in with our guy, Craig Button. Great to see you, Craig.
Hello, Marissa. It's April, and guess what? We're not getting showers. We're getting lots of snow here in Alberta. Great for skiing this weekend, not so great for shoveling.
Wow, Craig Button, hockey insider, but also weatherman? Love this. Okay, Craig, playoffs are just around the corner. If one Canadian team is hoisting the cup in June, who is it and why?
I would say the Edmonton Oilers. I love the way they have played since Chris Knobloch became the head coach. Paul Coffey was added to the coaching staff. And when you look at their record since November 13th, they're top 5 in every single category. Best team in the league in wins, best team in the league in points, and top 5, goals against, goals for, power play, penalty killing. That's what it takes. It takes a complete team effort to be able to win in the playoffs. And certainly when I hear Connor McDavid talk now, I see a real maturity, a real understanding of what the task ahead is. And you need some of that understanding to go through the playoffs. And you need some of the experiences that you've gone through to understand better what it's going to take. But when I watch the Edmonton Oilers and watching them for this long with a big sample size, Edmonton Oilers are my choice for the team that can go the furthest and have the best chance to hoist the Stanley Cup from Canada.
Wow, all my Oilers friends are going to love that answer, but I think, I don't know, you might have a little bias right now because you're in Alberta. Finally, Craig, it has been a tradition this year. Anytime you're on, you give us a little rant about what's bugging you in the NHL these days.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. You know, big dust-up at the beginning of the game between the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers on Wednesday night. And now there's the outrage. Oh, can you believe what's happening? What a black eye for the National Hockey League. And I'm talking about figuratively speaking, not literally, because maybe some of the players did get a black eye. Bottom line is that in a game where you have the situations that arose from a previous situation with Matt Rempe, you're going to have to answer to it. And that's just the way it goes. And maybe people don't like it. Tough. That's the realization for the players. And certainly this doesn't happen on a nightly basis. It doesn't even happen on an annual basis for the most part. But boy, when it happens, it's like, oh my God, can you believe what a spectacle and what the NHL is doing and how poor of a look it is? Give me a break. You know, do we say the same thing about a bench clearing brawl in baseball? We see these types of things happen. They happen rarely. So let's not make a mountain out of a molehill. I'm not even certain it's a molehill. It's just a little ditch. And certainly the players knew what had to happen. They made it happen. There was evictions, ejections from the game. But seriously, the outrage about a situation in a game that happens so rarely, give me a break. That's all I can say.
Could not agree more, or as Nana would say, make a relax, okay? Make a relax. Love it, Craig. Thank you so much for joining us.
Marissa, it's always a pleasure to join you. Look forward to the next time when the playoffs begin.
It's going to get spicy up in here for sure. And one of those teams vying for Lord Stanley will be in action tonight as the Jets host the Flames. Winnipeg could pull within 2 points of Colorado with a win, as long as the Avs lose in Mini. Coverage begins for those of you in the Jets region at 7:30 Central on TSN3. Now joined by my Kujina, Julia Deshere from Women's Worlds. Julia, great to see ya.
Marissa, I miss you. I feel like I'm in Utica till the end of time. Please come visit me.
All right, Canada enters this tournament slight underdogs to the Americans for the gold medal. With the tournament on home soil for the U.S., is this justified?
Okay, I don't want my Canadian card revoked for this, so do not come for me. But it is completely fair for the Americans to be favored at this tournament. They won last year in Brampton on Canadian home soil by being young and fast, and they've done nothing but get younger and faster this year. They've brought a bunch of young NCAA players into the fold, one of them being Joy Dunn, who just won the NCAA championship for the Ohio State, scored the only goal in that game. Edwards is also someone that people are really excited about, so they're a young, fast team. Oh, and they've got their captain back in Kendall Coyne-Schofield after having her first child last year. Well, Canada has opted for the core that we're used to seeing, the core that is our favorites. We love these girlies, but they've also brought the oldest team that they've ever brought to this tournament. So we'll see what pays off, if it's experience or if it's youth.
Okay, so following up on that, who is the most important player for Canada to win gold?
Okay, hard question, mostly because a lot of this hinges on the health of Marie-Philippe Poulin. We know she missed some time with PWHL Montreal right before this international break, and she was wearing a non-contact jersey at practice a bit over the past week. She's available to play tonight, which is great news, and she's the conscience, the backbone, and the offensive dynamo on this team. But for this tournament, I'm going to say the most important player for Team Canada is going to be Sarah Fillier. She has done her collegiate career. She's preparing for the upcoming PWHL draft. You know she wants to go first overall. She's already accomplished so much that being a true superstar at this tournament, which don't get me wrong, she already is, but really establishing herself as Canada's leader offensively at this tournament is going to be pretty important, especially with Pooh maybe not at 100%.
Kujina, an absolute pleasure, as always.
Thanks, Marissa.
And you can catch Canada's opening game of the tournament against Finland tonight. Coverage begins on TSN at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. The Devils don't have a ton to play for anymore, but as Craig Button touched on earlier, all eyes were on them and the Rangers earlier as a full line brawl broke out just 2 seconds into their game last night. There's so much to break down with what happened, so let's start pre-game with Matt Rempe's weird routine of slapping himself in the face a little. He was obviously getting ready for what was to come, and that was a brawl. But before that, he and Curtis McDermott also got some smelling salts in. There was so much that came out of that fight, including the two head coaches, jawing at each other as well, which is always fun to see. In total, there were 130 penalty minutes and 8 misconducts, which is odd considering it was a full line brawl. Somehow Curtis Lazar and Jimmy VC were both just given 5 for fighting, and played the rest of the game because they were technically the first to drop the mitts. Unfortunately for Lazar, even with a short bench, his ice time was his 3rd lowest total of the season. Now onto the meme, starting with this perfect snapshot of McDermott fighting future considerations. Hopefully he won that tilt. And then finally this epic picture of Keandre Miller, which has to be one of the best of the season. To the association, we gotta talk about the Lakers. Because after what's been a very up and down season, they seem to be hitting their stride when it matters most. And there's nothing hyperbolic about that sentence, okay? As they're 8-1 in their last 9 games. And it's not just the wins, let's look under the hood at some of the stats. Starting on offense, where the field goal percentage is elite, and the 3-point shooting and scoring are both in the top 10. But the number that sticks out to me in that stretch is pace, as they're first in the NBA with almost 104 possessions per 48 minutes. On the defensive end, it's also been great. Top 10 in defensive rating, opponent field goal percentage, and opponent 3-point percentage. While those numbers don't blow you away, they're top 10 in this recent stretch in things that matter. And we know what Thanos would say about this Lakers team.
Perfectly balanced, this whole thing should be.
Now, even with this recent run of form, they're still sitting in 9th in the conference, meaning they would still need to beat the Warriors in the 9-10 game, then beat whoever loses the 7-8 matchup, all to likely get Denver in the first round. However, they are only a game back of Sacramento for the 8th seed, and 1.5 behind Phoenix for the 6th seed and to escape the play-in altogether. Looking at their remaining strength of schedule, it's not the hardest, but it's also not easy. So if they can win their home games against Cleveland and Minnie, you'd think they'd be in a good spot to climb out of that play-in. Alright, the Jays have mercifully come to their first off day of the season, after arguably one of their worst series in franchise history. Although Toronto managed to squeak in a win on Tuesday, thanks to a dramatic 9th-inning homer by Davis Schneider. And that was sandwiched around their woeful offense being no-hit Monday and held to just 1 hit last night, setting records for the fewest hits and lowest batting average for a 3-game series in franchise history. And back to Schneider, he was held out of the lineup again, despite the fact that he homered in the only 2 games he started in this year. Schneider seems to be a victim of the Blue Jays brass continuing to rely on analytics. And we all know how that ended for Jose Barrios and the Jays back in October. I'm sorry to remind you about that because I was there, experiencing the horrendous display that we saw on the field that day. To make matters worse, 2 of the sluggers they gave up on last year have already combined for 7 homers this season, which is as many as the entire Blue Jays team has hit. But we're gonna let go of the negative and think positive for a second here. Look, and remember one of the few highlights from this season. It technically wasn't a Jays highlight, but this Rays ball boy stole the show last weekend with this epic snag, coming out of nowhere and laying out full extension for the highlight reel grab. Joined now by someone who is sure to make TSN's top plays of the month, Tampa Bay Rays ball boy Braden Coles. Braden, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you went viral recently with this amazing catch. Take us through that moment. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, no, not at all. I didn't really plan on diving all year. The first 2 games, I didn't have any balls hit to me. Obviously, this was the 3rd game of the season. The ball was hit down the line, and one of the pitchers was like, "Go make a play." And so if he wouldn't have said that, that's the only reason I dove after it, because he told me to go make a play. So otherwise, I would never have dove for it. And then
Obviously, it
obviously,
paid off.
yeah, so the ball was hit down the line. Uh, saw the opportunity and took advantage of it. Went out there and made a play.
Did you get props after the game from teammates?
Yeah, right away, everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's a great catch. That's incredible." Like I walked into the clubhouse afterwards and they were like, "You're going viral right now. Like this is blowing up." And the funny thing was, it took me like 45 minutes until I finally got all my work done so I could finally see the play. And so at that point they were like, "Oh, you're going viral." And I hadn't even seen the play yet. So it was, yeah, very surprising.
Amazing. Happy you were getting all the hat tips on this one, Braden. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for today. See you back in tomorrow, 3 Eastern, no Pacific. Have a good one.